Hi, my name's Phil, and I like to talk about politics. And well, when Shanghai rang in the new year, it used a load of drones to put on a spectacular light show. Well, it seems Donald Trump got a bit jealous. If Shanghai needs a load of drones just to light up the Shanghai sky, he thought, I'll tell you what, I'll use a single drone and light up the entire world. And so he seems to have done by ordering a drone strike in Iraq. Nice. Calm part of the world, and taken out a senior Iranian general. The reaction is not going to be what the Americans say it will, but it is going to be predictable nonetheless. But first, if you'd like to see more of my videos, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, ever since Donald Trump reneged on the nuclear treaty with Iran, there has been a great deal of saber rattling on both sides. Even drawing in the UK at one point last year, it has been a concern for a while. And there are clearly influential people on both sides who want a conflict to break out. They actually want this. But it seemed that Trump himself was less keen on starting a war. I don't know whether that's just because he came in, like a lot of presidents do, saying they're going to bring American troops back home. He didn't really want to do that and then send them out to an even worse hotspot than he'd brought them from. Or maybe it's just because there's no personal profit for him in a conflict, and there it is. But when you're not sure of winning elections, election this year, of course, for him, and he's not entirely sure about winning it, a good old-fashioned Barney with an enemy nation is pretty good for getting the people to rally around the leader. And people had thought that at some point, if it looked like he wasn't a shoo-in to win the next presidential election, that he would start a war, and potentially, as far as he's concerned, obviously there were others who want it for their own purposes. From his point of view, he might be going, yeah, let's do this. After the attack, he did tweet a picture of the American flag, so again, clearly an effort to get people to rally around his actions. And potentially that is the reason. Now, the immediate precursor to the attack was an assault on the US embassy in Baghdad by people demonstrating against militia deaths at the hands of American forces, collateral damage. And Trump blamed Iran for orchestrating this attack. Now, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Both sides are not above just making things up, and both sides, of course, engage in little proxy battles. But the fact that Trump yet again immediately was blaming Iran for this in something that, surely intelligence hadn't had time to fully analyse the situation it was very much like the attack on the oil tanker last year that no one else believed that was Iran's fault, but America immediately blamed them before even looking into it. Now, for Iran, for its part, taunted the US by saying there's not a damn thing they could do about it, even though they denied any role in the attack. Trump then threatened retaliation in very, very strongly worded tweet, of course. That's the only way he communicates these days. And so he said, this isn't a warning, this is a threat. And that threat seems to have been carried out fairly quickly. I woke up this morning to find Iran hopping mad after a drone strike killed one of their generals, in fact, an extremely senior general by all accounts. The Iraqi government is also less than pleased. It's happened on their soil. They're not at all happy about this. They are considering withdrawing their support for American operations against ISIS in the region. So it looks like America is risking shedding yet more allies in the fight against the militant group, the group that Trump said he would defeat within 6 months. Well, it's still, was it 6 weeks? 6 something. I don't think it was 6 years. But they're still there, and he's giving them breathing space again for the second time in a year. Now, after the attack, the Pentagon seemed to be issuing a statement suggesting that this action would shut Iran up. No, seems to have done the opposite, and it was always going to do the opposite. Iran have now already threatened revenge. The thing is that even if we assume that the Iranian leadership would like to defuse the situation, how's that going to be possible without losing face? Trump threw down the gauntlet and killed a very senior military commander. This isn't like... Now, let's say Iran were involved in orchestrating the attack on the US embassy. Let's just say. That's an example of like a proxy battle. They're using other people to fight for them. This isn't, there's nothing proxy about this. This was a US military operation against an Iranian military commander. That is a direct act of war. Trump has effectively declared war on Iran. And how on earth does Iran not strike back without looking like a whipped dog? Trump has surely just put all Americans in the Middle East in mortal danger. In fact, if I were even near an American in the Middle East right now, I'd be feeling a little bit nervous, I have to say. They are surely going to be the target of a major attack. Iran is facing huge economic pressures from the sanctions reimposed by America and has now just suffered an act of war. It is there risking the massive loss of face. It wants to see itself as at least a major player in the Middle East, preferably the major player in the Middle East. It cannot just back off from this. This action could really be the spark that lights up the entire region and draws everyone in. And it was also unnecessary. Under the past few presidents, relations had actually been improving. They weren't publicly warm, but there were agreements between the two privately that meant that the enmity of the past was basically disappearing. And then in came Trump, running roughshod over the delicate, very delicate Middle East process. I mean, you know, when the attack came in, Netanyahu of Israel was visiting Greece. He's rushed back to Israel. He knows what's probably coming. I also saw a British commentator saying that they'd written last year. This was, you know, when Theresa May had announced she was stepping down, but we didn't know who was going to be taking over. And he said that whoever is going to be the next prime minister has to become an expert on Iran fast, because they saw this coming. Well, I'm not sure what they must be thinking now that we've got Boris Johnson in charge, a man who famously acts on impulse and leaves the detail to others. I think this man would not even be able to point out Iran on a map, let alone name any of the key figures in the government. So I'm here now, resigned to the fact that at some point there is going to be a major act of retaliation. And then what's going to happen? Is Donald Trump going to turn around and say, fair enough, I did start it? No, he's going to retaliate again. We're going to have a classic Middle East tit for tat here. Massive game of one-upmanship that just gets worse and worse until we just set fire to the entire region. And I'm waiting here now going, yep, Britain is going to be dragged into this. There is zero way we're not going to be dragged into this. And in a much more serious way than we were last year. Now, I'm no Middle East expert, but Iran can only be doing two things. When something like this happens, you know, as a government, you can do one of two things. You can either plan ways to de-escalate the situation without losing face, or two, you can plan to respond in this game of one-upmanship in a way that will hit America where it hurts most. And whichever they're doing, they'll need to do it quickly. But I do not see how they can be doing the first of those things. I do not see how it's even possible, even if that's what they wanted to do. And I don't know that that's what they want to do. You know, in terms of the so-called hawks and doves, which is a term usually used with Americans in the administration. But in Iran, the hawks and doves, I don't know who's in the ascendancy at the moment. I can guess who would be now, regardless of who was yesterday. But there we are. We're just going to have to wait now for what happens next. And what happens next surely is going to happen fairly quickly. So there it is. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.